So thank you very much for joining, everyone who's here already. Sorry, a couple of minutes too late. Thanks so much for joining. This is Ed Finn, everybody. Say hello, Ed.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah. And Ed's got a channel called Organising for Change. And I've been reading Cal Newport recently. I'm trying to read more in 24. 104 in 24 is my sort of goal this year. Digital minimalism. So I was recommended that on the previous film. And he's talked about the importance of conversation. And it's this primacy of conversation over connections. And so I was really excited this for loads of reasons. You guys here in the audience already saying hello and starting the conversation is brilliant. Even before we've gone live, we've seen a couple of familiar names here. Really great to see you all, and we're here to have a kind of conversation. And so don't just click like. That's one of the things in digital minimalism. Don't click like, he says, but join the conversation. And I'm really pleased to be here having a conversation with Ed today, and I think that's one of the reasons why maybe podcasts are at such a resurgence at the minute, aren't they? Because people are enjoying getting deeper and having these conversations. And this conversation started from somebody suggesting you, Ed, in a previous chat. And I said, well, I've already spotted that channel. Great stuff. Taking on, looking at these great things, e-ink, from a different kind of angle. And we're going to talk about this device today, which is a kind of digital minimalist's dream device, I think. And they've made this space which is free from this kind of attention grabbing jumble of Android apps. This is a place where you can focus on your life, the productivity and the professionalism in your life, of process of thinking, the process of reading and writing, and now drawing as well, and note making as well. So it's really exciting. And we're going to be talking about how to get the best out of it today. And lots of people have been asking me, Ed, for content around use cases. So that's an exciting thing. And I want to start by asking you, and by way of introduction to the people on my channel who maybe haven't spotted you, I want to ask you a couple of questions about your channel. And your channel is called Organising for Change, which I think is a really interesting title. It sparks a lot of thoughts for me. Tell us a little bit about your channel. Go ahead and just introduce yourself, and then I'll sort of dive deeper into my questions if you like.
Okay, that sounds good. Yeah, my name's Ed Finn. I'm a teacher. I also have been in the public and private sectors for well over 30 years. I've led change initiatives from fairly small to large. And I have a doctorate in organizational leadership, which my focus was on change leadership.
Mm.
So for me, a lot of what sparked this interest in launching this YouTube channel last month, actually in December, was how do we actually organize around that? What are the things we do? And sometimes there's a technological component to that, and sometimes there's not. And it really depends on your personal style. So for me, the idea was how do I, name that and make it not sound um, highly technical, but at the same time get across that the technical tools in the digital world can help you do the things you may be doing uh, non-digital, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it does. Thank you. And I think I'd like to just dive a little bit more into the kind of idea of change and sort of pick your brain on that, because that's something I remember some of the very earliest training on leadership that I was given. The first session was change and why the necessity for change. And so I think a lot about change a lot. And as a school leader, you're responsible for the change that occurs maybe in your department. So I was head of science. And I think change can be really powerful. And there's kind of a lot of evidence, isn't there? We're told that change for change's sake is good. Like any form of change is usually a positive change, usually a positive influence. But you have to sort of juggle, and you have to decide, you have to make these decisions when to make the changes and what changes to make, and importantly, what not to change. And I see quite a lot of people come straight into leadership, and what they do is they decide to change too much too quickly. And then there are others that change too little, and you either you isolate and alienate everybody, or you appear kind of inconsequential if you don't change something. So you don't want to be treated hostile, but you also don't want to be a kind of lame duck, really. So I think that's a fascinating balance that you have to really strike. And one things I had to do quite a lot as a head of science was to think about what were the things that were really sticking points for me, and what were the big important things that were really important to me, and then to allow my team to set the agenda on the things that were less important to me. And in exchange, because they had that control and they had that more influence, they were more sort of open to accept my changes that I was to make with sort of less hostility. So tell me about what the organizing for change was, to give a bit more insight into that. Maybe I know you've got some thoughts, and that balance on your channel, how it comes through using the technology versus actually diving deeper into the actual change, and whether it's beneficial. How do you decide whether change is beneficial is an interesting question for you, and when it's just change for change's sake.
Right, right. And I think part of the biggest part of that is kind of what we're doing here. We're having a conversation. We're talking about, ways of thinking, ways of behaving, ways of doing things. And, you mentioned, all change is positive. And I think that, I might push back a little bit on that, that sometimes if we're just doing change for change's sake, it can be a negative because
Mm,
it can close doors. However, to your point, we have to prioritize. We have to think through what's the most important thing we're trying to grapple with. What are the things that we are trying to get consensus on? How do we get people engaged? How do we get them to see, like you mentioned, a great example of you with your team, here are the things that I can give up control on,
mm,
and in a lot of ways, that's what starts the broader conversation. That's what gets people engaged when they feel like, and when they truly are, given control or given the ability to influence the decision. And that doesn't mean that you're not, you have certain priorities you have to get done, but at the same time, it allows you to find the holes in your own reasoning and your own thinking. And the more you can do that, the more we can pull people into that and understand that everybody may be working the same problem, but may come at it from a different way of thinking or
mm,
doing that. Some people use mind mapping. I'm a big believer in it depending on what I'm doing. Some people use Excel spreadsheets. I use those too, depending on what I'm doing.
mm,
A lot of times we pivot and we change, whether it's from pen and paper, or in this case, digital stationery, to a tried and true Word document, mind mapping software, project management software, whatever it may be. So it's about being flexible and adaptive.
Fascinating, yeah, it really is. And already we're getting questions about how you use and what you use and how that feeds into your productivity system. So we'll maybe field a couple of these just really quickly. But I really like the point you just raised. This isn't another computer. This isn't another iPad. This is digital stationery, and I think that's a really nice way to look at this particular device we're going to talk about. And we are going to bring you 12 superpowers, super ways that you can use these devices. That's our main sort of thrust here. Well, any thoughts about this one? I don't know if you're an iPad user or a computer, and how does it fit into your productivity system with an iPad or a computer?
Yeah, for me, and just for transparency's sake, I've still got the A5X. That's what I use, but with the updates, it's pretty comparable. I
Mm,
went with the larger format just because of the way I write and the way I do things. But for me, everything has its place. So my phone is for, quick things I need to do, maybe updating the calendar, things of that nature. For my computer, that's where I may do a deep dive. If I need to proofread a document really closely, I can blow up that text, I can get in there and I can do some different things that way. But for the Supernote, that's when I really need to focus. So
mm,
if I need to take notes during a meeting, it removes the barrier between me and the people in the room. It allows me to jot things down without thinking about the typing and what keys I'm hitting. I'm a pretty good typist, but still,
mm.
even then, you're
It's more
backspacing and
natural, yeah.
doing other things. So that flow from thought to pen to, in this
Mm.
case, digital paper makes a lot of sense for me. I don't know if
Yeah.
you want to add, Kip, but to me, that's how my workflow kind of
Yeah, you're
goes
hitting
for
that.
these
You're
devices.
hitting the things for me. Digital stationery, flow. Absolutely, it sits next door to your computer. Your computer is that powerhouse, but this is where you just want to get into the thoughts. I filmed some B-roll of myself the other day, right? Some like just some stuff to use for voiceover, and I was struck by how still I was, and I remember that moment, obviously. like me in that moment, and that was a really active moment for me, right? Because I was thinking, what I was doing was thinking, I was zoned in on this e-ink tablet that I was using at that time, Note F3C, that I'm currently daily driving. I'm going to start doing this soon. But I was zoned into it, and I hardly moved. And then occasionally I made a few notes, just a few words, and then I made a few words. But for me, in that, like, I must have filmed like 15 minutes of me, but it was 15 minutes of me planning my week, and in my head, it was a very involved thing. It was the most boring 15 minutes of footage you'd ever seen, because I was still, it's so interesting. If you walked in on me in that room, you'd think, what on earth's he doing? Like, but the e-ink gives you that space to I was just thinking for him a week, just thinking, if I do that then, I'll do that then. And they're going to like that, and they're going to get a lot from that activity. And, I was planning. So that's where it sits. And my laptop was there, because my laptop's where I need to then put that into the browser we have to request our practicals and things like that. It's called Lab Logger. It's great. And, or quickly call up, quick search on Google for how do I do that again, or how do I explain that thing again? Or often it's look back at my old videos, funnily enough, to how I did that way back when. And it, like, the being able to write and plan with a pen, it would just made my thinking process so involved. And I say my memory of that was this really active time where I was really, really engaged, but yet it looked like I was just taking a break or something. Isn't it interesting? We'll do one more, then we'll dive in and talk a little bit more. Just got a Nomad, love it for journaling, Kindle, and to-do lists. Yeah, we talk about to-do lists. You should see them as your like star mark lists. I think on these is my sort of way of thinking about it. The majority of work notes will still be on PC though, and having the ability to sync. And one thing, they've just updated it actually, and they've popped in OneDrive integration as well. So there's now an option of, you can use the Supernote cloud, or you can use the Google Drive, or you can use OneNote, or you can use Dropbox. So there's those options as well. So actually you can make notes, and you can keep things, and you can change those things on those platforms, and they will appear when you press sync on here as well. So it is a device that can sync in with your notes on the PC as well. And we're also going to talk about their new partner desktop app. So they've had an app on the phone for some time. They've had a web app for some time, but now there's a PC app. We're going to talk about it briefly towards the end as well. But any just thoughts quickly, Ed, to answer this one?
Yeah, I would say that for me, and this has a lot to do with that piece of organizing that may kind of go across both things. So a lot of mine is file structuring and the way that I file things. And by doing that in the Supernote, then it makes it much easier for me to use it as a work note-taking tool.
Mm,
So I use it primarily for that. I drive it with that. And
mm,
with the real-time text recognition in the background, then it becomes searchable. So for me, I use it for the Kindle. I love the Kindle on it. I still primarily do to-do items in Google, just because that's easier to do at this point in time.
mm,
And the only caution I think about the integrations with the cloud services, and I was so excited about OneDrive until I realized that on none of them can you see the notes
no.
natively. The note format will not
Yeah.
open unless you use the partner app.
Yeah. So the only way,
So
exactly, is to use the
that's a
Supernote.
limitation.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's dive in. There's some other comments, and we will come back to you, but we've got quite a lot to get through. We're going to get to our 12 points as well. And I certainly feel from the comments on my videos that people are asking for this deeper exploration of the use cases of these devices as well. I just wanted to, there's been a couple of questions that I actually asked Supernote themselves, and I'm going to add in the device itself here. I asked them about the backs and the difference between the crystal back. So if you're not aware, this is the crystal back version or the white back version, and they aren't interchangeable. There's no way to actually there's no way to use the white back version and have a case be interchangeable between them. So if you've got the white back version, you've got the white back, and it will always be a clip-on case. There may be other cases for it, but they won't be interchangeable ever. There is going to be some information though about making DIY shells in the future, so you'd be able to get the sizing and everything ready for 3D printing, for example. So you could mod your own device back, which could clip on to and be screwed in just the same way as this. I also imagine that they will sell sets of magnets that you can actually add to your own cases, so you can clip it in. Maybe you want to clip it into something different, for example, as well. So that will be really, really cool to see them do. Also, I asked about the pins, obviously. Have to ask about the pins. What on earth are the pins for? And well, they had no confirmation, but they said they open up exciting possibilities, such as connecting a specialized keyboard or other accessories. Some people are thinking, is there going to be maybe some kind of light, maybe a quite a nice little thin sort of front light thing, a bit like I think Hisense have one, which is a glass thing, which just essentially very, very thin way of front lighting a bit of paper, that is. And it could clip on the front and just get power essentially from the pogo pins, or maybe some kind of customized clip that in and type. Although typing, as we've discussed just beforehand, is not quite ready for prime time on this device, is the way you put it, Ed, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's just a little bit slow, isn't it? I think the kind of type text. But was there anything else you want to add about the typing at this point, just as I said that?
Yeah, yeah, I would say, Kit, it wasn't so much the slowness or the lag. I mean, I think that was some of the videos you've shown on using the Bluetooth keyboards. I think it was fairly similar. So it's not real snappy like what I've seen from the Remarkable Type Folio.
Mm.
But at the same time, the biggest issue was the pairing itself.
Yeah.
So you have to keep the app open in the foreground.
Right.
It sometimes kicks you off. So
Mhm.
there's just some bugs that, I mean, it's brand new. And one thing with Supernote is they push things out to the beta community and they really ask
Exactly,
for
they do it in.
feedback and
Yeah,
work through those.
that's right.
So I
Yeah.
think it'll only get better.
Yeah, and in my last stream on it, I talked about the manual, and they don't currently have an up-to-date PDF manual. This is an older version, the version 2 manual, which is mostly the same. So I stuck it on there anyway. But and I made the point that you could make a link to the manual on the web, which is quite a cool way of doing it. But I think it's nice to have that PDF version. And so I asked them, will you be bringing out a PDF manual? And they said, yes, we will. It will come at some point. We're currently preparing a user guide for the manual. It will be available later. So it's one of the things there. Is perhaps not the web manual is up to date as far as I can see for the fully released version, not necessarily the beta always. So it is there, but it's not compiled into a PDF. They'll take a moment where they think, right, that's a pretty solid. That's pretty much what we've got in terms of our user interface, and we'll stick with that, and we'll do that manual as well. I also asked them one last question. I said, would you like to maybe jump in to the chat as well, maybe answer people's questions in the chat? So maybe Supernote, maybe the chief chat officer will join us in a live stream, either in person and talk to us, or in the chat as well. So things to cover. I might make a little list as well. I might just, whilst we're here, I might make a little list of all 12 of them so that they're on our screen. But we're going to go, Ed, you're going to launch us off. I'm going to, shall I do it? I'll do a real-time recognition as well, because I think that's generally the one I use more. Do you use real-time recognition more than the standard?
Yeah, I've gone straight to that. I find that the impact on battery life isn't as bad as people thought it would be.
Mm-hmm.
And I tend to charge mine, even though I could go all week without having to charge it. I tend to charge it every 3 or 4 days, just to make sure that it stays up. But yeah, I pretty much have stuck with real time recognition. It makes things so much easier in the long run.
Great. Let's fire in then. So number one is with you, and it's talking about using external web links in notes and agendas. Okay, over to you.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me try and change my camera here really fast so that you all can see that. Okay. You should be okay. So I did this just to show the demonstration of it. One thing that I think is really important is that although this is a very rudimentary web browser, and there have been a lot of videos on that, this is more of a kind of a behind the scenes browser. Like here, I've created a very simple Google link that'll take you out to Google. And I've done a walkthrough of this a little bit on my channel, but you can actually then search, and even though it is very light, your keyboard comes up, and then one thing I always like to use is Avengers as just kind of a test. It recognizes right there. You hit your little search icon, and then it will let you navigate the web. You have to hit it twice. Sorry about that. Kit and I were talking about the joys of live recording. But so one thing that's really nice here is that I do this to link to my Google Docs. So if I'm in a meeting, I download a PDF of that agenda, and that way I can add in comments and highlights and take notes on the PDF. But at the top, I make a hyperlink that takes me to the live version of that same document. So you can't edit. That's one thing that the Supernote can't do with this limited browser, but you can see the live version. So if I want to show a sheet, if I want to show a Google Doc, if I want to show other metrics, I can link out, and this becomes kind of a way for me to leave my computer in my bag
Mm.
and show what a Google Sheet might look like.
Yeah, so you can log it. The browser's limited, but you can actually log into Google, and it will remember you, and you can go to your Google Drive links, etc.
You
in there.
can. And I believe, and the problem is, I guess the limitation, not the problem, is that you have to put in that exact link, and then it'll prompt you to sign in. There's no way to navigate to a specific, there's no address bar up here.
No.
So you can't live real time move around, but you can go to your drive and then click through it, and
Yeah.
it works fairly well.
And you can follow the links that are on the screen there, but
Exactly.
yeah, cool. Okay,
And then
excellent.
exiting out is really easy.
Yeah,
Get
and you're
back
back
here
to
now.
your, yeah. I think that's really like, it comes back to, I don't know if you've spotted me, but going from contents, I'm like this. I'm going to add, I guess, in my reviews home, I'll add a link to this thing I'm just making here, the 12 superpowers. It's all about thinking on your little route around the device. What are you going to go back to? What are you going to, link to at any given time? So that should be in the new notes here, 12 superpowers notes there. And now I'll be able to quickly go between this link and this link, and just sort of thinking about your own sort of what you need to get back to quickly, etc. So I want to talk about like making your own PDF templates. This is my second one. This is what I've been doing ever since the beginning of my time with e-ink, is making my own templates. So if I go back out of here and I go to my spring 2023 planner, this is the one that I will be using when I'm at school. I'm sort of, you can see me, I've sort of got this to half ready to be used as my daily driver, but it was once a Word document, and now it's a note file in here, and it's gone from being a Word file and then saved as a PDF, and then saved in the files section. It's been saved in the My Style here. You can see it, Ren Planner. That's the PDF there, and you can just annotate on PDF. This is what I have been doing, but I find that then you lack sort of some of the. I don't think you can do. Yeah, you don't have all of the table of contents. You can't change the table of contents of a PDF, which is a PDF, but you can have all that control within the notes thing, and you can just make this PDF the background to your notes file. So what I've then done, if I go back to my contents page, I'll go back to my school. What did I want to go back to? I wanted to go back to, in this contents page here is the thing you can't edit on an actual PDF. And I'll go back to my, that was the school planner that I wanted to do, wasn't it? Pardon me. Back to my school planner here. And in here, I can go um, pages, and that's not right either. Oh yeah, Ed, where has it gone? It's templates in here. And as long as the thing exists already, as long as I'm not making a brand new workbook, then I will find my multiple page planner PDF here, and I can select what pages. I can select all of them, or I can select certain pages. So if I just want to add my school days next week, I can select multiple pages, and then I can apply and add that as a template. And that puts the PDF as the template background with the links all still there. The links all still working. And I can also edit those links, and I can also add my own links essentially as well, importantly as well. So now I apply, it adds that as a template. There it all is. And now I can still make new links. So select, and I've got all that control that I do in a notebook. I can still add my star marks. If I can draw a star. Yes, got it this time. And so I still get all of that really well thought out Supernote functionality there within that. I mean, I think that's going to be great. I think that's going to be absolutely fabulous when I use this. When I use this as my daily driver at work, I'm really, really looking forward to that functionality there. So you have your personalized, your planner that you've made yourself. Of course, you could buy one straight off the shelf. Voya's My Daily Organizer is great. I know you've got a lot of content on that, Ed, as well. And then you can edit that. You can edit all the things in that. And I know that's the home for this. That is really the home for My Daily Organizer, I think. And that's where this is really starting to take off again. And really, I think the platform is moving ahead of, certainly for the notes taking app, certainly that's moving ahead of a lot of the competition at this point. Okay, so let's go.
Yeah, and Kit, I would just say one other thing real quick on that,
Yeah,
as
do.
far as there's a very and one thing I have talked about are the planners, and I think they're really important. One thing that you lose is the contrast control and the ability to add in like actual notes or comments directly into the PDF if you turn it into a template. But what you gain is so much more, like you just showed. So
Mm,
it's really a trade-off. It depends on whether you are someone who is more driven by the planner itself and need it to be in that hyperlink mode and
mm,
you're used to pen and paper, or whether you really want to maximize the use of the Supernote, which gives you all those extra tools that you can use on the note-taking side.
that's
So
it.
it's really an interesting back and forth.
And I think that's where you're going to really come on to next. Is one thing you said to me was, yes, using your own PDF as a planner is great, but actually using the calendar as a productivity tool is what you're going to talk about next, I think.
Yeah, and and let me pull up again, change cameras here. I think that what's interesting about the calendar, and I want to be really careful here. I don't want everyone to think that the calendar is the end all be all. I think that this is one of the things though that separates the Supernote from something like the Remarkable and even from the books line. And one of the reasons I chose it was because while it syncs with your Google Calendar or your Outlook calendar, it's not a full on Office app or a suite to where
Mm,
you're having to go through Outlook to do things. But it allows you to do a lot of the same functions that some of the planners do. And I think Supernote is really close to making this a fully functional tool that will be able to integrate and again keep that laptop off your desk or out of the conference room. So for me, and I use this, it is tied to my work calendar, so I try to make sure that I don't show anything going on at work. But you'll see that I created a note today, and down
yeah,
here you have access to any note you created. And it pops right up. You can go in, you can open that note, you can edit that note. As a matter of fact, it'll be the same note we just created with the Google link. So that's right at your fingertips. You also, when you go back out, you're still at the calendar.
mm,
And what's unique about this is you can also write on that calendar. Now, let's see if this works. I tried it earlier. Yep. And you still have your lasso erase. So your eraser, if you have your gesture eraser on, still works regardless. So these are the incidental things. And I do an in-depth video on this, so I'm not going to belabor it and go through all of the things I use it for. But being able to use the daily view, the monthly view, or the weekly view, the daily view, which is this one, and the monthly view that shows you your
Right.
events, and being able to create events either by touching the screen or touching the plus. The navigation is extremely well thought out,
And you can write
but
on
I
all of
think
those
there's still
three
missing.
views, can you?
What'd you say?
Can you handwrite on this view and the weekly as well?
No, that's the biggest limitation. You can
Right.
handwrite on the weekly and the monthly,
Right, but not this one.
so you can transfer that really easily. But what you can't do is handwrite on the daily.
Right.
And they really, I think, are missing the boat on that because I think
Yeah.
that's where it could be really useful to handwrite in a meeting and then go back later and add it to my Google Calendar because I can already see if there are conflicts.
I would say, yes,
And
if
this
you add
little
the
preview
event,
box
it
down
does
here,
link with your Google Calendar, doesn't it?
it
Great.
does. And if you go here, you see these dots.
Yeah.
Those are showing me that there's an event on that day. And if I click on that,
It
it's
comes up
going to
there.
show in this little box here at the bottom.
Yeah.
And you can create a new note from either of those top views right in real time.
Yeah.
So for a lot of cases, I don't even leave this view. I don't even go into my navigation
Right.
unless I'm going to go over to the quick navigation bar
Mm.
and go into a large folder, which this has been a little buggy since the update this morning. So my navigation's backed up on me. But the idea is I can stay in this view and any notes that I have are right there that were
Yeah.
created that day.
Yeah.
I keep telling them, give me today and last accessed, and I'll be a happy
Yeah.
person. But we haven't got there yet.
Yeah. That's really good.
But
It's so
it
true.
does. It gives you that functionality.
Yeah. It's really interesting. One of the things of my last live stream talking about this was I was talking about it isn't really a homepage as such on Supernote. It's not like an apps homepage or a notes homepage that we're kind of used to. There isn't really a homepage. And actually, if your calendar is your homepage, and you're talking about, okay,
Exactly.
I'm talking about having a contents note, and that's actually the next one that I'm going to do. And this sort of quick access, you go back to last open document, last open kind of note there as well. This is my next superpower, is having this sort of contents page, making this contents page and treating it like a contents of your whole device page. It's like making your own homepage, if you like. And you see that people share these on Reddit, don't they? They share here's my latest sort of contents page, my latest homepage. And it's like really makes the whole thing feel very customizable, doesn't it? I think I've kind of shown that quite a lot as well, but I'll just do one more bit of that then. So my contents page here, what I'm doing, as I say, is I'm getting this sort of ready to be used as my daily driver at work. So what I'm doing is making sure I've got the documents that I need. So here's my A-level documents on here. And I've link out to this PDF. And, now I've got, this is a full PDF. So I've got its sort of table of contents in there. So I can go backwards and forwards to that. And I can go back to my last open note, and most of the time will be my contents page here. So I'll just show you how I make that. So on the Nomad, you've got two swipe bars. I guess you will on the A5X2 as well. So you've seen, just to make that really clear, that if you two finger on the bar at this point, you get the eraser. But if you two finger on the screen, you get a select lasso now. And I think you can change that. But let's say I want to link to this specification document here. I select it like so, and I've got the link key there. Hit the link button. It's an other file. It's going to be, and it's going to be in documents, and then A-level physics, because it's an A-level physics specification. And then boom, make that link. And now it's there. Open that. And now I'm into my PDF for my specification for my quick reference of the things that I need to teach them and when, all the little objectives that I need to teach the young people tomorrow, etc. So I think that's a really powerful one, but that's really interesting. And actually, this caters then for different types of workflows. Are you someone who is it, your planning and your daily kind of actions are more the driver of what you want to do, or is it a place where you just need to be able to get around the device, around your notes, around your different files quickly and easily, or both, or some mix of both? Isn't that a superpower? Hopefully this is being useful. There's some really nice comments as well. How many have we done so far? Was that 6 or 5? 4 only. Right. Let's fire on for
4.
Yeah, we're still going, absolutely. And your next one, PDF comments and annotations. So let's take us through that if you can.
Right. So one thing that I think is really interesting with this, and let me go ahead and share my screen here again, or switch cameras. Right. Right. So like I said, what's really interesting with this, and I've done a deeper dive into this on some of my videos, but one thing that's kind of unique to the Supernote, and it's fairly new, and Kit, I don't know how much you've used this. I'd be interested to hear. But when you're in the PDF, and this is a function you lose again when we were talking about going from the PDF planner to using it as a template, is this idea of highlighting, then being able to go in and add actual comments. So the comments are, you go ahead and you go into the comment, and this brings up you can either type in or you can handwrite. And this comment turns into text. So handwrite recognitions it, and it gets embedded when you export into the PDF. So the example I give is I've used this for interview questions. So during an interview, I'll sit down and I'll ask the question, and as they're giving me their response, I'm handwriting in this section down here. And then it is going to go ahead and recognize up here. When I hit save and when I export that, I can now, and if you'll bear with me just a second, I'm going to show you what that looks like, and then we'll share the screen. Sorry, another thing with the.
No. So we're just getting that ready. I don't use that often yet, and this is one of the things that I'm just really excited to dive in and really use this device as my full time at work, because I'm really starting to see its use case. Alongside, we talked about how it sits next door to a laptop and how it complements your laptop, doesn't take over from it, or how, as you're pointing out now, it can really replace your laptop in a meeting, as you've just come in here. And yeah, I can see that as being a really powerful thing. I'm sparking lots of like use cases for myself for this, how I would use that. Great. Yeah,
That was that was a bad example of recognition just then. But and you do sometimes have to clean it up. But for the most part, as we saw when I just wrote in interesting, it comes through pretty clear. And but then you have these, and I preset this so that during the meeting, again, I don't have to take the time to highlight and then to come back and then to highlight again and go back in. I just tap, comment, and I go from there. So it's a very productive tool, and it keeps me from having to once again break up that conversation flow. That's always the part. Oh, well, wait a minute. Let me go back in here. Let me do this instead of asking the important questions and taking the time to listen for the response.
Fascinating. Awesome.
Yeah, I'll be interested, Kit, with what as you drive this.
Yeah.
I've been doing this for 2.5 years with this one device, so I'm very familiar with what it does.
Yeah. I don't get to live a digital minimalist life, unfortunately, because so that old Boohoo kit, like you do get to review these amazing devices, and but I'm constantly trying out new things. So actually, and my first review of this, and when I did return to it a couple of about a year ago now, actually, and I sort of did another daily drive after some updates. But even then, it's moved on quite quickly. I can see since then, and I'm going to have to really dive in deeper, and I'm really excited to find out that this is a very, very useful conversation. I hope you guys are finding it useful as well. There's some really great bits of chat here. So my next one then, as I go back now to our 12 superpowers, and number 6 is going to be making a detailed table of contents. Yeah, so and I think this is more about just being in the habit of making and keeping a table of contents. So if I just show you what that looks like in a document that I've been trying to make sure that I do, not only can you get about this document and the whole device by links, but you can also keep your own personal table of contents. And this has been, for me, the absolute selling point. These sort of 3 options here along the top here of Supernote is the thing that I sort of love about it. First of all, you can make yourself a heading. So if I make a new page, let's just go to the end of it. I can make myself a new heading at any time by selecting the text. I'm going to try and make sure I grab it all. And the big H, you get different styles of headings, which I think categorize them differently, and they certainly look different on the page. Let's try a different one again. And then I've got new heading here. So that will take me between any of my headings at any time, which is just really very useful. Then I can also use keywords. And if I just show you, I look through some of the keywords I have on the thing here. So I already have A-level, GCSE and school. So any page where I'm going to be discussing A-level, then that I can select that. Again, I'll do it on my sort of example page, my new heading page. If I type in A-level again, and I select it, make sure I select it all, and I go keyword, it will recognize that. Oh, it's A-level, look. And I can just add it to that. And now when I now look at keywords A-level, you see I've got it in multiple places across the document as well. I mean, that is just such a quick way to sort of tag up and make sure you can get to things. If you talk about individual employees or tasks or projects, you can tag them up and you can go quickly to those pages where you're working on those. It's a real superpower. And then lastly, it's star marks. And I said at the top, I said, treat star marks as your to-do list. And this is the thing, I didn't realize this. Actually, my wife, when she got her A6X, she said, oh, I can see how I'm going to use that, because that's going to be my tasks. So when I have a new task, no matter where I am in my document, if I go ahead and put a little star, and that just leaves that as something that I can quickly go back to. Oh, there it is. Go to that page and it turns up. And once you've done it, you can just you can select it and delete it, or you can just delete it, and that is now gone from your mind. Because isn't it great to clear out your tasks and have an empty to-do list? So that is the use of that. But when Remarkable have added checkboxes, and they are just boxes that can be ticked or unticked, and they cross out the little bit of text that's next to it. That's as much as they've done there. You can't find them all. You can't centrally on the device like you can on the Supernote. So whenever you can get back quickly to those star marks and find your list of to-dos really, really super quickly. I think that's a fabulous thing. There's some really, really great comments. I feel like we should keep going though as well. I'm going to go from maybe star some, and I'm going to let you crack on with your next one, which is the global search, Ed.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Kit, if I might need your assistance with your device, my swipe down and my
Okay.
bar are not
Yeah, let's do it that way
functioning
then. That's absolutely
quite
fine.
the way they should. But if you could swipe down from the top, you'll be able to. So if you exit out of the quick access and swipe
Oh, right at the very
down,
top. Oh, the whole thing's gone. So
You'll see the search tool.
yeah.
And the nice thing about this, and I love the keyword example and the star mark
Mm,
example, Kit, that again shows the versatility.
mm,
So for someone who focuses that way, it's the best way for them to approach this. For
mm.
someone like me who's using something else for that, but needs to find um, a specific word or phrase, if you type in anything into that search bar, and it will crawl all of your real-time recognition notes.
Right.
So anything that you have done uh, in multiple notes should, when you hit search, pull up and identify in those different notebooks.
So okay,
It's a
so
really
certainly,
interesting tool.
yeah. And let's see how quick that is, because that's a lot of searching, no results. But just try screen on its own.
And I use those again extensively, which is
Screensaver design notes, yeah. Or let's try.
I tried rebooting my machine. I apologize for that, Kit.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, you let me know if it goes. We can do it this way. That's absolutely fine. There we are. Yeah. So look, yeah, if I type in pen, I can go, which is nice now because I can apparently go to my file not found. It's because this is the SPD here. I think this is the Atelier document where I was testing out all of the different pen tools. Was what I was doing here on my up and coming drawing video. So yeah, so very quickly I can find that one there. So yeah, that's great. This searching through real-time recognition notes. It doesn't search all the PDFs
Yeah.
as well. I take it just your real-time recognition notes.
It
Then.
will search titles and
Right.
real-time recognition notes. So it's pretty functional. So and I've shown it on another video, and I don't know why, since I upgraded from the beta this morning, I've been having a few issues with the gestures, and I've seen that on Reddit. So I was hoping I wouldn't be affected.
Absolutely not. Oh, I see. So yeah, you're in the beta program, are you?
Yes.
And
That was
yeah,
actually one of my first videos that got the most views as I showed some beta features.
awesome.
So,
Right, I'm going to fire in for the next one then. So the next one is the screen share function. So that's going to take me sharing my screen. It's going to be multiple sharing. So here we go. I'm going to, show you first of all how to get it. So again, it's from the swipe down here. It looks like a screen share icon here. Click that. It says go to this URL. And that's a URL that I have bookmarked on my browser. So now I want to go share screen. Let's go entire screen. This one. Yeah, there we are. So one of my bookmarks up here is that address, which is 192.168. It's just a local sort of LAN address. And there it is. And now you can see with a handy little pointer, you can see my screen. How quick is that? Yeah, it's pretty much real time, isn't it?
yeah, it's very good.
So that is, that is, I can, that is really quite useful for showing your way around. I wonder, does Kindle come through in color even on that? And just being able to share out to a meeting. You could obviously full screen that. You could obviously, you could share that out. No, it stays in black and white, which is absolutely acceptable, isn't it? Absolutely fine. And then you can just quickly stop sharing. So that the things you need to have right on that is they need the device and the browser that you're sharing to, and it can just be any browser at all. It has to be on the same Wi-Fi. It has to be on the same network. Essentially, is the thing that you need to have right there. And as long as that's the case, it is that simple. There's no software to install. There's no issues with like trying to find the right app to share with your board, because it only shares to this proprietary app, for instance. There's no Miracast. Does it have Miracast or not? It's just, can you share a window to a meeting, for instance? So a lot of the time now that we use Zoom and Teams and all these things, and StreamYard to search there, and then screen share or window share, you could just share that one window, of course, and have that up in your meeting and very quickly be sharing your notes or sharing your handwriting, drawing diagrams to the meeting as well. So I think that is definitely, it's the simplest of the screen share functions. So I'll put screen share by HTTP.
And I think, Kit, to your point, being able to use those other ways to share your own screen then makes that very, very versatile. You're not relying on um, you're not relying on someone having another app. They can just log in however they come.
Yeah.
That's really important.
So as long as you're on the same Wi-Fi, so that's the one thing you are relying on, is that you can log on to the Wi-Fi in a space that you're presenting. Maybe that's the thing, which won't always work. But I think that is the least likely to go wrong in any kind of situation. As long as you can log on to the same Wi-Fi, that is going to work pretty smoothly. Number 9, I don't know if you're able to go back to your own one for this, or you want me to do it, but I don't absolutely mind. So this is commenting on PDF as well, but this is for marking documents. Is that how you would explain this one?
Right, and I can show this.
Or grading?
So
Is it grading
my
paper?
biggest thing is, yeah, I've been using the Supernote for quite a while to grade.
Yeah.
And I'll show my screen really quick. Like I said, it's just some of the navigation that right now is giving me a little bit of trouble. But for the most part, and wrong thing. There we go. Let me just get into a screen with some text here really fast. I had it teed up and then I've had to reboot a couple times, which usually doesn't happen to me. So it's pretty crazy. So what I do, and one reason that this has been really helpful for teaching, and I know, Kit, you're a teacher, so for me, one of the big draws to this is I like to hand mark up papers. So I like to write comments in the margins. I like to do a lot of things like that that gives it that more personal touch. The problem is that then becomes not accessible to screen readers and some other technologies that you really need to have in the modern age for people who may be sight challenged or whatever the issues are. But with that PDF functionality or that highlighting functionality, you can go ahead. Oh, wrong one. You can go ahead and highlight that text. And instead of using that annotation file where you're handwriting, you can add your comment right here. Now, what that does, it still allows me to mark in the margin, still allows me to underline or to circle words. And so there's going to be some extra content that's there, but there's also this embedded content where I can explain what may be wrong with a specific sentence. So whether this was, grammar, which it may not recognize that one. Actually, it did. Got me right there. So I can write that in, and then I can also, that's interesting. I actually wrote it in and left it on the screen that time. I don't know if you caught that. But the idea being that you can mix the digital and the distraction. I hate the term distraction free because it's gotten a little changed. I think your digital minimalism kind of makes more sense.
Yeah, I like
The way
focus.
we're talking about it.
Yeah, I like
Very much focused on the grading here
yeah.
and not looking at everything else.
Yeah. These devices are focused on the job in hand. They're not focused on on grabbing your attention, because attention is money. That's the thing about this, the argument that comes through repeatedly in this digital minimalism book, which I vastly recommend to you all, and thanks for the recommendation from you guys for it. It's that the companies that make apps and make smartphones, etc., they are your attention is money to them. Your attention is the ability to advertise to you, is to sell to you. Your attention is money, and it is true that this live stream is part of that attention economy as well. But I do hope that we're giving you some excellent value. Please let us know if you are. You don't have to click like, but if we are, then join in the conversation. There's some great ones. I just had a little read as well for some of the comments, and please stick around because I've started some great comments. And what is more is there's some great discussion that I won't dive into particularly, but you're all having a good discussion in there as well, and there's clearly you're being useful to one another as well. So it's great just to be that kind of hub for that as well. So we have 2 more. This is 12 superpowers that we're gonna get covered up now. So mine now is using the digest feature. And the digest feature is simply a way of saying, where do your annotations go from your readings? So again, swipe down to get to everything. That's the way to go. And you go to your digest, and you can see a couple of things. These are the 2 bits of reading that I've done on here and have made cut notes on, or annotations on, or highlights. So I've got 2 for each. This is the manual here. And I have highlighted a little bit, which I'll just show you now how to do. And also you can add a handwritten note, or of course you can add a text note in here as well. So it's just a good way to get back to the things that you need to be like really front of mind. So let's see how you do that. So let's go back through my contents, go to my school home, and I'll do something that I'm gonna, I'm teaching at the minute with my year 12. Go to the contents there, and I need to find SPC topic. We're doing technology in space. It's all very exciting. How we're teaching electricity, but in the context of satellites and satellite technology. So really good. So I can go to my teacher notes here, and I can look for the activities that I'm up to. I'm just really looking forward to using this and later the A5X2 as well when it comes. And let's say there's a little bit in here that I need to think, okay, that students might already be familiar with combining resistance series and parallel. I need to think about this. This is giving me a little tip here of what I need to make sure that my students are very familiar with and they understand before I start teaching them the new stuff. And now that's there as a note that I can select and add a note to. I could even hit in here if I wanted to. I could draw myself a couple of questions that I wanted to ask them if I wanted to be really wizzo. And I can add in notes here, don't forget to tell them this, or, and then that is now in my digest. There it is. Useful, right? So just a really nice way of making your device something you're reading on, you're making notes with, and then they're always thinking up clever ways of making it quick to get back and quick to scan around and quick to find the things that you are looking for. I think it's really super useful. Is that something you use, Ed?
It is. One thing that I think would be even better for it. I use it a little bit, but I've now gotten into the comments because I like that they stay embedded with the PDF, and it's a little bit easier. I used annotations quite a bit before that. Now that they've kind of combined them in that pen tool at the top kit, you don't have to draw the brackets. I like
Right.
that they left that functionality in there.
Okay,
But you can actually choose whether you want the comment or the annotation, and it really works well. I hope at some point they integrate them.
So when this pen here, that's what
so when it pops up, yep.
So I've got the leave a comment. So leave a comment is this one. Make a note.
Yep, and then the annotation is right next to it.
Yeah, cool. Really great.
So
Amazing.
it's they keep refining that experience so that it's easy for you in the moment to figure out what you want to do.
And that's it. I think if you're
But
thinking
having
of
both of
buying,
those in one place.
if you're thinking of buying one of these, then really think about do you want to do you want to be part of the community that you're seeing in the chat, and folks like this and Supernote are responding to. It's very easy from the settings to send feedback to them, and they do. And if they've got capacity, they will add it if they think they can do it in a way that is in keeping with the theme and aims of the device, they will bring it, and that's great. Rather than, you know, having this open Android system where there's, you know, millions of apps, quality of those, you know, finding the quality one that's going to do everything that you want it to do is a minefield, frankly. And when you download your new free app that you want to try, and you have to live with it trying to grab your attention to sell you things through adverts, then you just nothing like that on this. And that's what they're talking about in the digital minimalism. It's like, you know, when you read a really good book and, you know, everything is about that book for the next few weeks, you know, that's where I'm at right now with this. Couldn't recommend it more. Cool. There's some great ones, and we're on to number 11 now, which is handwriting Kindle notes.
And I actually got my swipe bar to work, so I can show my Kindle app and get that.
Somebody in the comments did say that they've had this issue as well, and that and somebody asked me this question as well in the comments for another video, handwriting Kindle notes. They also said, yeah, on reloading it, the swipe and everything comes back. So, you know, it's one of those things that sometimes you get bugs when you do update things quite quickly. And they also bring out updates to fix those quite quickly as well.
So this one's kind of just, it's both a personal and professional aha moment. And Kid, I told you this, that it was something that I don't know why it never occurred to me until the other day. My frustration with Kindle has always been having to type in with the on-screen keyboard any comments or notes I want to make in the Kindle app. It's slow, it's sluggish. Even in the old days of the tactile keyboard, it was just not easy. But here, and hopefully this will show, one thing about the Supernote that's really interesting that I just recently, if I can get this to open up, is that the keyboard is global, and I thought it was relying on the Kindle keyboard inside the app, and it's not. So for my notes now, you know, we're reading Henry V in class, for the class I'm teaching right now. I can go into my copy and I can put interesting point. Of course, my handwriting here is atrocious, but it still picked it up. So it worked well. And then I can hit save. That is much faster for me than trying to do that with the typewritten keyboard, or with the virtual keyboard. Now, I think once they get the app working with the desktop version, it may even be faster, that you would be able to do that. But for me, that's a time saver, especially for those of us who may be older Kindle users and remember the buttons when they came out, and then remember the virtual keyboard. It's just a quick way to add that note in and have it handwrite or hand recognize your handwriting right there. So that's a fun one to me.
Cool, excellent. Handwriting Kindle notes. And so you're reading, is that Shakespeare you're reading at the minute, Henry V?
Yes.
Enjoying it?
Yeah, we and it's interesting because I'm co-teaching the course with a classics professor, and of course I'm a leadership professor, and it's a freshman course, so it's a lot of fun. It's about the intersection of leadership and the classics, so it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, sounds like your students are getting a good deal. Excellent. Now the 12th one, I'm sort of thinking to myself, I thought we had 12 absolutely, but it was going to be keyboard linking. And I think you were down to do this one as well, but it's with the new desktop app, and we've talked about, is the desktop app ready to show? Do you mind just giving us a real quick? Can you share your screen and show you how you do? Show us how that works in the desktop app and on the Supernote.
So let me try to get that up real quick.
This is the latest update. You need to be updated to the very latest software on both the device, and you need to go to Supernote. And if you search for Supernote Partner Windows Desktop app, something like that, you'll be able to find that and install it. It's still in beta itself, but you can install it. And the thing is, I'll talk about this now. I tried it today. It probably means that Google Drive is a little bit kind of redundant for me in a way, because What you can't do on the Google Drive, if you use that as syncing, and somebody asked about how that's working. So I will answer this one now, just while you're getting that demo ready for us, Ed. Is that you can't read the notes. So you can't read, you can read the PDFs can sync up to Google Drive, and the docs and docx and any PNGs or JPEGs or whatever you have on the device. All of that type of, all of the global sort of file formats can be read in Google Drive, but you can't read the notes unless you're on a Supernote device, or now unless you're on the desktop app. So I'm thinking to myself, right, I was really kind of keen on the idea that I could use Google Drive, but now I'm kind of thinking to myself, no, I think I'll go back to the Supernote cloud so that I can interact with the partner app and read the notes and interact with them in real time as well. But what I also think is actually it's very easy to switch between them. So if you go into the settings, I just want to make sure I'm not going to show personal information here. Yeah, my account was up as I thought. If I go into sync, that's okay. Bring that on. So in the settings, there's the whole sync menu in here, and you can actually very quickly and easily, it seems, switch between the synchronization platforms that you have. So Adam Moore asks, how does the sync work? It works on demand, which is a bit odd. It doesn't do it automatically all the time, which I think is probably better for battery life, but it is more, you have to manually tap the sync button to actually sync it. I don't know if you can schedule synchronizations at some time, but actually it's very easy to switch between the Supernote cloud. So let's say you wanted to do a Google Drive backup, or you had a document in your Google Drive that you wanted to bring down onto your Supernote, and you just basically, in your Google Drive, you have a folder called Supernote, and that the folder structure within that just mimics exactly the file structure in here. So it makes a Supernote folder in Google Drive with this file structure, and everything is synced, the PDFs, everything. The notes files are there, you just can't open them, so it is a backup. But then what you could do now is you could go ahead and you could just think to yourself, well, I want to make a backup in my Google Drive, so I'll just click on there, do a sync, that backs up everything from the Google Drive, brings everything that's in that folder down to the device. And then most of the time you live in the Supernote cloud, and you can have your notes there that you can access in the partner mobile app. You can access them on the web app, and you can access them now on the desktop app. So that's quite, it's okay actually. I did think, you've got to choose one or the other, and now I'm thinking, no, do I really need to choose one or the other? I'm not entirely sure. So here's what you work
Let
by.
me
Ready?
show. Yeah, no, I'm ready. It has to be maximized to
Yeah.
show that. And I don't know if you've got the Supernote on there already. But so when I go in, you'll see here at the bottom, it's got this EN and it's got kind of this blank space. That's telling me that the keyboard is paired
Right.
with the device. And then I can go here and I can disable that. And I don't know, Kit, I can't see
Yeah.
the
So we're
cast, so
looking at
tell me if you can't see anything.
Yeah, we're looking at
Um,
your Supernote at the minute. Yeah.
okay, so now I can go ahead and hit enter. One of the bugs, just to be real transparent, is the shift
Mm.
key doesn't work to capitalize.
Oh, really?
So I can hit caps and I can do Y,
Mm.
you're looking at a live demo. So it works pretty quick. I mean, it's not as fast as some of the other things that I've seen, but
Mm.
it does work. Uh,
So you
and
so
this is
this
in a Word document, which is what sets it apart a little bit
mm,
from pretty much any other device that's not using the native Outlook app. So, like on Remarkable, that's a proprietary file.
mm,
This is Word. So, when you
okay.
hit save and you open this document somewhere else,
Mm,
it will look exactly like this.
yeah. So
So,
just to make that
eh,
absolutely clear, I'm going to go back to your screen if that's okay, and put that up so everyone can see your screen now, on your computer with the
yeah,
Supernote linking. Can you just show us how in the desktop app, what do you have to click in there to get it to pair?
absolutely. So, the first thing you have to do, let's go out. So you have all of your files here, but
Mm.
when you go into settings and then you go to Supernote linking.
Right.
Now, if you're on a work network, there are a lot of admin permissions here. So I'll just warn you
Mm.
that it's better to do this at home for now, just to test it. But then your device will show up here. And when you click that, it'll give you a pair code that'll actually show on your device.
Mm-hmm.
And you hit pairing, and it tells you it's now paired. Over here on the right is where you enable the keyboard sharing. And you can turn that on and off, but your device will stay linked as
Mm.
long you're as you're doing anything with the app.
Yeah.
So as long
But
as you've paired it, the syncing between the device and the desktop app will be pretty much simultaneous. You
mm-hmm.
do get some conflict files because of the cloud being in that three-way connection, but
Mm.
they're working through that. Again, it's
Cool.
a very much a beta.
Yeah. And it's yeah, it's you can see the use of it once it's maybe quicker and just slicker, and that you don't have to you have to have that window open and maximized. I'll put just us back on screen again now, mate.
Yeah.
You have to have that screen maximized to be able to type. So it's not going to be that kind of quick. I'm working on my computer and I want to type something in. So like a couple of keystrokes and you're typing on your Supernote. It won't be that quick. Hopefully they'll get that there. That's our 12. That's our 12 superpowers. I think we've done what we aim to do. That was the main sort of thrust of the content. Hopefully that does really become a superpower. Should I put a little asterisk by that one, or a little star mark? I'll make a star mark for it for them to.
Yeah. I think they're well on their way, Kit.
Yeah.
I really do. I think what's interesting is I put an image in there and I kind of showed some stills of this when it was beta within a beta,
All right.
which is always dangerous. Uh, and if you put an object in Word, it comes over into the Supernote and is selectable.
Mm.
Now, you can't resize it yet, but since it creates a bounding box, I'm pretty sure that's a new feature that's coming.
Mm.
So that would kind of change the way you would use that workflow if you could bring smart art or
Mm.
some kind of bounding boxes into that, and maybe even a hat tip towards Word. So, um, one real quick thing, just quickly, you had mentioned while I was trying to set that up, the
Mm.
Supernote partner app does sync automatically if you enable it, but it doesn't sync automatically to the other cloud services.
Right. So
So it will auto sync to Supernote in the background.
sorry. Yeah,
But
that's what
again, you have to be worried
makes it
about
very
battery
clever
life
about.
on that.
Yeah. Thanks. Absolutely. Let's go through this sort of start questions that I've looked at and have a quick answer to those, and then we've got one more quick discussion there. So get your questions in now if you've got any as well. You're okay for time at the minute. Sort of getting towards late evening for me here, but that's fine. We'll crack on for a little bit longer. Thank you so much for your comments. We're going right back up here. Some amazing ones. We've done that one. Yeah, other styluses on the Supernote. Heart of Metal 2 is my favorite. Yeah, it is heavier than this. This is quite nice. This new one, actually. Some people have talked about it being a bit jangly and clicky, and yeah, maybe, but all kind of clicky pens have that. I think I still prefer the Heart of Metal. It does. It is a pleasure to write on this surface. It makes me write more. It makes me write neater as well, interestingly enough. But I've also been experimenting using the sort of felt nibbed pens, for example, the Remarkable marker has this sort of Wacom felt nib on it, and that's, I think, the more kind of natural thing for drawing rather than the ceramic nib. Anything to add about the styluses?
I would just say I've always been a Heart of Metal user. It's what I ordered with mine. I've tried. I keep a backup. I keep the Norris Digital Jumbo as a backup. It
Yeah,
just doesn't feel the same on the surface, and I think that's intentional.
yeah, no,
But at the same
yeah,
time, it's
I
nice
think
to have
that's
a
the one that
backup.
feels worse, incidentally, on here. That feels better on the other kind of textured screen protectors. That's the one that doesn't feel as good, I think, on this particular device. I imagine maybe I haven't tried a titanium nib, might work quite well on there as well. yeah, there are lots of options now as well, and more options as the Wacom standard becomes in more and more devices. More people are making. I want to try these Dr. Grip ones. They're called as well. I haven't done yet. Um, Interesting.
And just as an aside, kid,
Mhm.
Rada does not recommend the titaniums.
Right. Thank you. So don't.
I asked specifically because they said even though they're titanium, they do tend to wear, and it could rip the screen protector
Aha.
after extended use.
Great. I will give it
Just
a
as
look.
a caution.
Yeah, talking about the conversations here, looking at stepping in, do step in with lots of confidence because they're excellent. Revolved around Apple ecosystem for years, supplemented with yellow legal pads all over my office. Yeah, and e-ink tablets will get rid of that all over the office. I hope it has. Has it done it for you? Has it got rid of that kind of jumble of notebooks and scraps of paper everywhere, Ed, or is it not so much?
Yeah, I mean, quite frankly, I haven't picked up a notebook except in an emergency in 2.5 years. So
Right.
this started as a journey during COVID. I
Mm,
had the funding to buy a device. I searched, I went, I watched your videos, I watched Voya's videos, and I settled on the Supernote because, again, I think what Kit said, jump in, but jump into the right device for you.
yeah.
That's really important.
Mm,
Find the device that's going to fit you. And that for me was the Supernote at the time. Doesn't
mm,
mean it'll always be that, but that's what it was then. And it's remained that. And I have not picked up a pad of paper
mm.
other than, again, as an emergency. I left my Supernote at home and I need something to write on because this gives me the digital way of having all of the same things I had with paper.
Yeah, that's a fascinating discussion. And what's also very fascinating at the minute is that we're going to start to see Apple Vision Pros in the wild. And you're in the Apple ecosystem now. Are Apple ever going to get with this kind of program, this kind of like very much focused devices? Are we going to see an Apple iPad with an e-ink screen? I think that would be amazing. I think they'll do an amazing job at that. Um, or are they going to go down this immersive thing? And really, for me, I've been talking about it quite a bit. We are, as humans, going to be making this choice today, this hour, these minutes. Do I want to be immersed? Do I want to be, working on something which is both digital and analog? And that's where your digital stationery comes in, really. So I think we'll be making these choices, and we'll be having meetings like this. Times like this, maybe we'll be wearing something akin to a Vision Pro to interact with somebody on the other side of the pond, and have a great conversation about what we think, and get that deep human connection, and maybe sometimes we'll be sat still with a piece of digital stationery, just really still thinking our own thoughts in our brains, and actually loving that moment, like really enjoying uh, being in deep thought. It is something that I'm personally, and I know that you guys do as well, in the audience as well. Really great. Yeah, this is an interesting one. I think it felt more responsive as well. So far, I always check before a live stream. Is there an update? And then there's an update, and then I hope it's updated before the live stream starts. But there was an update, and so far it does seem to be a bit more responsive. It feels like it's done the thing. I think you've got the opposite experience on yours. Have you, Ed, on your A5?
It's funny because I was having no trouble on the beta, but when the stable release came out, that's when it happened.
I think, yeah, they're quite good at quite
I mean,
quickly.
technology is wonderful when it works, and
Yeah,
and that's
absolutely.
that's
And
always
and
my
if it's
line.
not going to work, it's not going to work in a live stream, is it? So that's the way to do it. This was an interesting one from Chris. An address book with a hyperlink directory, great exercise to run through to get your head around it. Yeah, so I guess that's a similar thing about the you're talking about a directory for your addresses. Um, and just getting used to the features. And my recommendation for getting used to the features is always on any device, get the PDF manual and go ahead and read it and annotate it and get used to how all of that works. I think that's really useful as well. Any sort of any sort of first thing to do when you receive your Supernote, for the audience, what should they do first, just to get their head around it and sort of get over that initial rise in the learning curve?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, obviously the manual is really important. And one thing I hope they bring back is the manual on the device
Yeah.
itself.
Hmm.
I think that moving to the QR code probably isn't the best way to do that. But part of it too is just playing around. And you know, I like to experiment. I like to jump in. I like to do different things. I first want to see, will it do with any new technology what I'm trying to replace.
Mm,
So for me, it was, will this allow me to take notes? And
mm,
it's gone a long way since then. When I first got it, it didn't have hyperlinks. It didn't have, you know, probably 50% of the features it now has. But it still did what I needed it to do in in the moment. And I
mm,
think that's the big thing. Think through when you get it, what am I trying to replicate? And it's really important that you do. Like for me, the address book, I think Chris, for him, that's great, or him or her. Unfortunately, I don't know from the name, but that might be the perfect thing to have an address book in your Supernote. For me,
mm.
that's in my phone. So my use case is just different. And I think that's one of the things that you want to think through. And I think Chris also made a comment, and I don't know if you have it starred, Kit, so I may be jumping ahead,
Yeah,
but
no,
that this should be seen as a supplementary device.
yeah,
And that really caught me because for me it is. It replaced a whole bunch of my
mm,
workflow, but it's not going to replace my phone.
mm,
It's not going to completely replace my PC, but it is going to allow me to make those things more intentional and more productive.
yeah,
So,
yeah, fabulous. Yeah, great. Wonderful. See, it's for absolutely great conversations and comments going on in here. This one I thought was interesting. One of the main draws to me is that Supernote makes accessories more, that make it more of a notebook than the book's device feels more like a tablet. Absolutely. Well, their tagline has been for some time, like a tablet, unlike any tablet. It's well documented my thoughts on books devices and how useful I'm finding them. Um, I'm really interested after this conversation. This conversation has been brilliant for me, and it's really got me very excited, and some of you as well. I think Chris's latest comment is, yeah, it's like as this technology that looks like a notebook and replaces your notebook. Totally with you, man. Like, it's, yeah, that's the exciting thing, and yeah, like the way they've sort of teased this and marketed it, like initially, and like it does feel like a notebook. It's a pen loop, and their tagline for those who write, and now I think they can add for those who draw as well. It's a thinking person's notebook replacement, and it makes me want to just sit in places and write. It makes me want to just travel, walk around, and then you get that idea, and you park yourself on something and you scribble it down, and then you reopen Henry V on Kindle, and you carry on that train of thought, and then you get up and you go, oh, it's time for a coffee, and you sit and you do that, and it's a very romantic kind of thinking person's kind of view of the world, and this device, yeah, it's great for that, and their accessories are really really nice. Their accessories are always a pleasure to use. That's why, the Heart of Metal is still the pen for me, because it just feels like that. Clicking that off, you're going to write something, and just the screen, the way the screen feels, and everything about the ceramic nib, and it feeling like a real pen and a nice pen makes you take care over writing those words, and that is important. It isn't just scribble stuff down. The difference between that and writing on the inside screen on the fold with its, albeit really good, same technology Wacom S Pen, it doesn't make me want to take my care and write neatly. It was just get the blooming note downs because I might have to look at this later, and so fine for shopping lists, great, but for something where I actually want a record of my thought, and I want to come back to and use to inform later projects, or just to enjoy later, then yeah, that's far better. Anything to add about the accessories, etc.?
yeah, I think that that's one thing they've been very intentional about, and I love that you have the fold. I had the fold, and I found that the same things you're talking about with these other devices. And I think if I was immersed in the Microsoft or Google world, which, we're a Google campus and we use a lot of that.
Mm,
But if I really needed that to be my primary ecosystem, I think books, hands down, from
mm,
all of the reviews I've seen,
mm,
would be the place to be. But this is very much, they've been very careful, and they get I think Rada and Supernote get a little bit of grief for not releasing it as fast a pace as some of the other companies. But what they do release is very intentional, and
Mm,
it fits a specific way of working. If you are primarily writing, whether that's for pleasure or whether that's for the office, it's really a seamless experience.
mm,
Everything you need to do is there and it's intuitive.
yeah.
Once you're in that ecosystem, it's really easy to make the things
Yeah,
work.
once you get your head around it, it is intuitive. Yeah, I think that's it. Just to really lead on from that, like this is another professor, continuous teaching, research, admin, A5X for about 4 months, and I'm addicted. You know, like something that is like I love using it. I like look forward to work. Honestly, like there have been days where work is work, no matter what we do. We'd all rather be on holiday. But there are days where I think to myself, "Oh, I'm going to work tomorrow. Well, at least I get to use my e-ink tablet and and tech that's like that. Oh, I'm trying that new device, and oh, they've released that new update that's going to allow me to do this thing. That just like it can, it gives you that little bit of kind of something to look forward to, a little bit of extra side interest to keep your kind of naturally curious brain sort of separated. And if you try and keep the mindset of like you when you go into work, you're working to learn new things, and one new thing is technology and how humans are becoming more capable and yet struggling with things, and all those interesting debates that we're having and is well covered on YouTube, then we can having something like this, all of a sudden the price tag is is not ludicrous, and I've never got that from an iPad, that's for sure. Not that kind of same addictive and just the same engagement with the same connection with it. I have had that with sketchbooks and notepads. I have so that's why they look like that, and that's why it's an important thing and that's why it is so marketable to have this image of you in a meeting. And we're going to talk about them in meetings in a minute. Your image of you at work, like you're the type of person that chooses the Supernote. Any thoughts on any more?
I would agree, Kit. And I think what's really cool, and I do get excited about this because
Mm,
whether it's the Remarkable, whether it's a Supernote, whatever it is, the ability to be able to share handwritten notes or
mm,
sketches, and
mm.
I envy your ability to draw. You have some beautiful drawings, but and I am not in that
Thank
space.
you.
But for me, if I'm working out modules in a new assignment,
Mm,
or I'm mind mapping a new course, and I'm trying to show the interconnections between what I'm doing, now I don't need to go and find that notebook that I have it stored in.
mm,
I can just hit share, attach it to an email as a PDF, and send it out to the world. So, this idea of being able to take the handwritten or the tactile, the
mm.
non-digital,
Yeah.
and immediately turn it to digital is really a game changer to be able
Mm,
to collaborate. So for me, that's where my sweet spot is with these devices,
mm.
is that it allows me to take something I've always loved, which is the handwriting experience and the
Yeah.
hand sketching or,
Mm.
brainstorming, and turning that into something that is
Yeah.
shareable.
You enjoy thinking. You enjoy being there thinking. Yeah. And it's I think when I did the global search function, I didn't have the handwriting selection. That's why I didn't bring up as many options there. So thank you very much, Rescue Ferret, for coming into the rescue as per usual. This one is a good one. Yeah, just a comment saying how cool they thought the streaming feature was, how easy that was. Yeah, for YouTube streaming purposes, super straightforward. And you can imagine that side by side, replace Kevin with the Supernotes, Ed, sorry, with the Supernote screen. It would be a very natural way to do this kind of live stream or video. Just gonna cover a few more quickly, and then we'll talk about Alice a little bit of planned stuff. Handwriting GUI is obviously a game changer. It's one of the power being able to easily link whole audit trail documents to an event with a calendar. Yeah, it is something that be purposeful and learn how to use those linking features, and it can become the term like second brain. This can become really accessible throughout the device. way of accessing your knowledge and your personal knowledge management system. The other thing to say is if you're a user of an A5X and you're thinking of upgrading to one of the newer generation, everything comes and it all comes across. All of the notes were all there, so you don't feel like, oh, I've invested and connected with this device, but I want that extra sidebar and the new Feel Right screen. That being said, you don't need to upgrade because your device will still work and they will still support it for some time. Anything else to add on this one?
Yeah, the only thing, Chris, I would say is the as far as the audit trail of documents, I just want to make sure that I was clear on that. The way they trail in the events or in the date is by creation date. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll create all of my documents for that day early in the morning with just headers. And then that way, whenever I go back to that date, all of it's there. Now, and you can't create links yet in the calendar. So you can't like put a live link in the handwriting on the calendar. All of those things are on the roadmap for the Supernote, but I just wanted to be clear. They're talking about being able to tie last access date, and they're talking about being able to allow you to be able to put in custom links, just like you can in a note, which would be extremely valuable in the meeting and would really, to Kit's point earlier, help you make that calendar almost a homepage.
Yeah.
If you could put everything in those three views
Yeah.
and you could just navigate from there, it would be amazing.
Yeah, I just wanted to say this one, Eddie, really quickly. The PDF, it's not really too small, and the reason for that is because they now have the G sensor accelerometer. So when you're in a PDF, if I pop that back up there, last open document, it is a bit small on this screen, but now I can just rotate, and it automatically goes in this kind of half view, which is still not massive, but now it's sort of now it's A4 reduced to A5. It's 50% that as long as you've not got terrible eyesight, you'll be okay. But there is also going to be the larger ones as well. And you've just got yourself a Note Air 3. So let us know your thoughts on that. And what I really like to see is follow up to this. 9 Superpowers so far. Made me really excited for the A6X. So that's a good hit rate, I think. Isn't that? Can everyone give us a score out of 12? Like, how many Superpowers did you really like resonate with? That would be quite nice to read in the replay comments or in the comments just now as well. Cool. Let's
definitely take that all day long.
Yeah, absolutely. As well. Fabulous. Let's go, and we just wanted to talk briefly about Supernote in a meeting. And you want to talk about how Ian can reduce the impersonal nature of meetings that have been pervasive since laptops became the norm. So tell us about that.
Yeah, in my role, several roles back, I traveled to a lot of different campuses, and I would talk to administrators, faculty, deans, presidents. And one thing that I found, I wasn't using my laptop, and this is well before the Supernote. So I would go and I would take in my pad of paper or I had a real nice folio, and I would sit down and I would have a conversation, and I would handwrite notes throughout those conversations, because every time I pulled out the laptop, I just felt this barrier between me and the other person. Plus, then you get the click of the typing, and you have to look down occasionally, and it wasn't as personal.
No.
And I'd always wanted something that would allow me not to have to come back to the office and transcribe a bunch of notes into OneNote or into whatever I was using, so that then I could refer to them when I went to the next time I met with somebody. So to me, this is kind of a really interesting and good middle ground, because it's not in between the two people having that conversation.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you found that, but it really resonates with me for that reason.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something I've noticed like since the remarkable like type folio, and like I've shown it to several people, and they've been like, "Well, I liked it that you didn't have that. You didn't have that option to be in like laptop mode, and I don't want to be the guy to sit and type, and oh, hang on a minute, it like." whilst you're in that meeting. Absolutely, I agree with that. And I also think the iPad doesn't really do it in a meeting either. And I find myself just being like, quite often, if I try and when I have tried to use the iPad for review kind of purposes, and uh, you know, I found it hard to, like, I'm going between these apps to do these things, and there's often times when I'm just like, how do I share this file out? And it's not doing well. It's not. It probably would be great if I were just using all Apple products. You know, it'd be AirDrop this, and but then I have to use Google Drive or the school's Microsoft systems, and it doesn't really. It never feels very easy to do on that iPad as well. And it also, it's still a big, bright screen, even if it's in sort of flat mode. The iPad, rather than being up on its smart keyboard or whatever they call the thing. It's still a big, bright computer in the middle of the room, and this isn't that. This is just like, after they've got over the initial fascination that you've got this e-ink tablet, it's just a notebook, and it's just like that folio that you used to have. Absolutely. And yeah, absolutely the same experience. So when you sort of thought you might want to touch this, like, yeah, totally, this is something that I felt as well. And there's so many people who got into it for that reason, that's what they wanted to use in the meeting. They didn't feel distracted from the colleague. They could focus on the colleague, not a barrier in between them. The colleague's not wondering what you're kind of typing, even though they can't really read you upside down. They say something, and then you go, oh yeah, that's a totally different thing than interesting. Like, it's a different sort of vibe, isn't it? And I think that's the very thing. I also think that iPads, like, because iPads are what kids want. It's not the iPad's fault, to be quite honest, but iPads are what kids want for playing games really, and doing anime sketches, and nothing wrong with that. Great device for those things. Great device for most things, really, the iPad. But it doesn't have that kind of professional feel, really. And I think you walk in with a leather folio, or faux leather folio as they are, or even the cloth one and everything like that. You pull out the Heart of Metal 2 and they click. Yeah, here's a pro. And I think there's a lot to be said for that. Cool. A couple more last few little ones, some other things as well. This is really good. Wasn't sure about it all. Totally excited by all the new possibilities of what the device has to offer. There also is, I have in this update, I said at the top that Rata were bringing a manual. The manual is there now, so that's great. I haven't found it yet, but I suppose it's in the settings, and the user manual is now no longer a link to the support, but it's a PDF. There it is. I can vouch. It's a PDF
good.
that you can write on for the Nomad. Thanks, guys. So good stuff there, and that's a proper manual. That's good news. And somebody talking the same thing, like just a little fiddling and friction between having the ideas and getting them down. And some of that is software, some of that's customization and organization. And you're optimistic the Supernote would help. I would absolutely say yes, it will. Just spend the time. Book yourself in a nice hour to sit and read the manual and go through, and as you do that, you've seen myself and Ed be like, oh, I didn't know it could do that. I could see how that would work for me, and how that would work in a different way for me. And our comments in the chat here, that works in a different way. You'll find your own use case for it, and you'll find some of those features more or less useful, but they're there. And then when you get an idea that thinks, oh, well, I wish I could just do this, write that in a comment. Right then, there's a support feedback option there in the settings. Write that to Rata, and they'll think about it. And if they can do it, then they probably will, because they want you to feel this is your device, that they're moving forward with you. And that's what I think we all feel here, who are Supernote users. Anything to add to that one?
I would also recommend, if you're not on Reddit, getting on Reddit. Their community is extremely active. And Trello, they have a roadmap, and you can see what they're thinking. You can upvote different features. A lot of that has happened, and it's happened because they do listen to what the community wants to see and how they want to engage with the device. And, one last thing, just to echo what Kit said about, sitting down with the manual, but also make sure that you aren't trying to reinvent the wheel. If you already have a system that works for you, like if you structure your folders a certain way on the PC, you can still mirror that on the Supernote. My naming conventions didn't change, even though their interface looks way different than a Windows Explorer interface does. So again, finding that balance between what you may already do and the things that you already, use to organize yourself, but then using this as a useful tool to help you do that in a different way.
Yeah, it fits straight in, doesn't it? And somebody's just asked, can you ask when you got your software updated? It was just today, I think, for me. And also Chris has said that the penny has dropped with Digest, and that makes sense now. And Brian has said 10 superpowers out of 12 have really, and we also said there was a question mark about one of them. Kind of interested to know what the one was that other than that didn't resonate with you. But Ed, thank you so much for joining me this evening or this afternoon for you, and thanks everybody for watching. Ed's channel, Organizing for Change, is linked up in the first couple of lines of the description as well, and you can find that there. Any closing thoughts, my man?
No, just thank you. I mean, thank you to everybody who showed up and was a part of the broadcast or watching it back. Thanks to Kit. Really, he, Brandon, and Voya kind of got me started on this journey. I could only pick one device at the time, and this is what I ended up picking. But if you're in that situation where you don't know what to pick, I would recommend going back and watching all of their videos. I mean, Kit offers some really good insights on if you're trying to think through what the best process is for you. So, no, just thank you for this. Thanks for reaching out. I think it's been a great conversation. Hopefully, we can do it again sometime.
I hope so too. Thanks, you guys, and let us know in the chat how many superpowers we've hit for your Supernote. Thanks once again.
Thanks, everybody.